Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
Join me, 48 Hours correspondent Erin Moriarty, on my podcast, My Life of Crime, as I take on true crime investigations like no other. This season, I'm looking into the labyrinth of crime and secrets within families. I'm cutting straight to the evidence and talking to the people directly involved, including investigators and the families of victims. Listen to My Life of Crime with Erin Moriarty wherever you get your podcasts.
A note to listeners. The following podcast contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
Literally the day after I talked to you guys, the vehicle that we have that's registered to me was pulled over, and one of the first things that was asked was where I was. That really caught us off guard. Until people realize that there's nothing to be afraid of, they're not going to talk.
This person could have just been bullshitting with me. I don't know why someone would want to bullshit like this unless they were just really messed up in the head. But she said if they didn't give her like some drugs or some money, she was going to tell on them. And they were like, no, we're not giving you any drugs. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to tell them. So she grabbed her phone and she called 911.
You are listening to Partners in True Crime. We are your hosts, Rob and Cindy Dorfman.
First off, we want to thank everyone who is listening and supporting the cause to find out what happened to Molly and Colt. We also appreciate all the amazing reviews that everyone has been posting. Those reviews really help us get the word out about this case, so please keep them coming.
Today we're going to talk to Colt's cousin, Amber Nicole, again. It's been a few weeks since she spoke out publicly for the first time about Colt and Molly.
Like Paula, we admire her courage to speak truth to power and her commitment to be an advocate for her cousin Colt.
We do know now that this investigation is climbing out of its cold case status, and that's because of everyone who's listening, sharing, giving tips, which is amazing because after 9 years, it's time for this to end.
So let's talk to Amber Nicole.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing all right.
We're doing good.
Tell us a little bit about anything, any kind of feedback have you been giving back, and if anybody's been calling you, if you know, because a lot of times, you know, when we're out, there's like tips that come out, and it kind of jars people's memories and stuff like that. Has anything like that's happened?
A little bit. So I've talked to a few more family members that don't really want to come forward. They were very proud of me for speaking up, and that was awesome because I was really nervous about how the family was going to feel about some things that I said and my opinions on things, because none of us have really talked about it. We've all just kind of stayed quiet about it, and that's really unfortunate that it's taken this long for us to all decide that, you know, now's the time to start voicing how we're feeling about things. I keep telling them that their opinion matters just as much as mine does. Maybe they have some kind of weird theory that hasn't been thought of that could help, but nobody wants to really get involved, and it's really unfortunate because people are still scared. Until people realize that there's nothing to be afraid of, they're not going to talk. I had one cousin say, I've worked entirely too hard and I have entirely too much to lose. And I was just like, Colt lost his life. Seriously? That side of the family wasn't really as close with them. But still, I was just like, but Colt lost his life. And it's been 10 years, almost 10 years. I really think that it's bugging me more this year because my son will be 21 at the end of October. It's really shaking me as a mom that we don't know what happened. And it's really, really unfortunate that people are still so scared because there are people higher up that are just protecting things. And then the podcast that came out this last weekend, that was a roller coaster of emotions. I was so frustrated because the minute that he said, oh, I haven't even listened to all of it, but immediately starts trying to dismiss the people that are coming forward because they're druggies. People get clean and people change. So for them to still have the same stories years later, very consistent, says something. And for him to be like, oh, well, I picked Craig Ladd and he's such a good guy and da-da-da. Well, when was the last time you talked to him? Because he's on the Brady list. You don't get on the Brady list by being a good guy. It's just frustrating because he hasn't even really looked into anything. He's just automatically trying to shut everything down and be dismissive, and that's not okay. If he wants to help, perfect. Great. Voice your opinion after you've listened to everything, after you've gone through everything. You can't just immediately jump in and say, oh, nope, you called the person that I picked a bad guy. Nope, nope, nope. Because we all have had run-ins with Craig Ladd, and he hasn't been in the area to know who has gone rogue and who has tried to stay in the good path. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, well, let me just stop you real quick. I mean, I've been talking to Gary quite often after his, and, we've sent him a lot of information on the case and stuff like that. And he's looking at it from a legal perspective. And granted, he hasn't been living in that area for a long time. And granted that he does still occasionally talk to Craig Ladd, but I'm sure it's not about cases. It's not about anything. It's just catching up. And so there's a lot of disconnect there. He had listened to most of the podcast. He was almost all the way caught up. But, he's looking at it from a legal standpoint. He's had to deal with these cases time and time again. So I think a lot of times because I've had discussions with him about this, as far as you say that you wouldn't consider what a druggie says in an eyewitness. And I said, you're not going to get a church-going person who is honest.
Doesn't mean because they're on drugs doesn't mean they don't go to church. But
no, what I'm just saying is
I understand, but it's also that because he's just making a judgment, this blanket judgment statement, like you're saying, Amber, people do change. People do get clean. Again, I'm going to say this, that the person that gave us this information, the informant that was on episode 11, he had no reason to tell Paula and Misty this information. He doesn't gain anything by it. In fact, it actually made his life worse by saying something. And I don't feel that someone would put themselves in the middle of this for no reason. Okay.
Exactly.
So to me, it's a little ridiculous to say that we're just going to dismiss that statement from him. And also, I mean, I want people to understand a little bit more about Craig Ladd being on the Brady list. So what do you know about that, Amber?
I don't know a lot about that. I know that it has been brought up in numerous conversations. Normally, if somebody's talking about Craig Ladd, there is somebody around that's going to mention that we don't understand why he's still DA because people are going out and voting, but nothing's changing. And I don't know. I don't do politics.
That's okay. We'll look into that.
I personally wonder what he did that put him on that list. I haven't had a chance to look into it. This is my busy season. I'm very curious as to what did he do that he finally got caught up on that put him on that list? And what does it take for somebody on that list to be disbarred? Because I haven't heard of anybody running against Craig Ladd ever. That goes kind of back to what I have said before about nothing's going to change if nothing changes. And until we can get the people that aren't really doing what they need to be doing out of where they're at, nothing's gonna get any better.
No, I agree, and I don't know the politics down there either, but from what I've told is a lot of times he's running unopposed.
That's how these people get in their office and stay there for so long, and then they're there so long that they know unopposed, that they know that they can do whatever they want, and that's literally what happens. It's almost like a movie. Some of the things that happens down here, everything gets real hush hush, then it becomes a taboo thing to talk about, and I'm like, these are two missing kids. There's nothing taboo about that. That's just wrong. Everything needs to stop. We need to have answers so that we can move on. Poor Paula, she's never going to be able to move on until she at least has some sort of answer or has something that she can bring home. And I hate to say it that way, but I mean, at this point, we may never get, we're never going to get full skeletal remains, if any skeletal remains, but something would be better than nothing. And the dwelling on every day of not knowing is, I can only imagine how hurtful that is, being as close to Molly as she was. Because unfortunately, I wasn't that close to Colt as we got older, but I know that it still bothers me tremendous. So I can only imagine what Molly's family has gone through. And I know that I've talked to Colt's sister, and she's told me she's not dealing well with it. And there's a lot more going on behind the scenes as far as these families go that nobody really takes into consideration. Because if it was one of Craig Vlad's kids that was missing, none of this would have gone on this long. They would have been found, and anybody who had any nose itch of what might have gone on would have been incarcerated. And it would have been over very quickly.
100%.
Because these kids were doing what kids do, and, they ran off. No, they didn't. They would have contacted somebody by now. Somebody would have seen them somewhere. Like, they didn't have the money to just take off to another continent or anything like that. So where did they go? They didn't have any money.
Well, we know that Molly called one of her friends the following morning. So we know that she didn't run off.
Right.
And her phone pinged right around that area. That right there, we know.
Right.
It's just unfortunate. The whole thing is just unfortunate. And I think, getting back to what you were saying about Gary, I think he doesn't really, because there was another person that came out that's close to the case that's heard that as well and said, listen, he may have been a great guy when he hired him, but he's a different person now. And so,
right.
and I think that's,
that goes back to people change.
Yeah.
And you can't be one-sided and blind to see that. If he really wants to know what's going on down here, he can meet a few people at Ardmore Coffee Shop, or he could just go to the Ardmore Main Street Coffee Shop and sit there and ask people as they walk in the door what they think of Craig Vlad, and he's not going to hear what he wants to hear. And that's just random people on the street. And that says a lot, because it's not just us that are close to this case or have anything to do with this case. It's other people. It's everyday people that just know that he's been corrupt for a while. And money talks. If you don't have the money to get what you want, then you're at his mercy on how he feels that day. And it's not okay either, because that's playing with people's lives. And that's a God complex, and that's definitely not okay.
I don't know about the money exchanging hands or anything like that for case, but what we have been told about Craig Ladd is that unless it has some sort of high profile nature that he can use to kind of make himself look better, and if it's not a slam dunk case, he doesn't kind of pursue it. That's what we've been told.
Well, I mean, also that goes back to him not going after people that need to be gone after because they are, quote unquote, higher members of society because they paid their way out of that. That's what I was referring to.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that have happened around here that people should have been very much prosecuted on, and they just, like Joe, walked away with a slap on the hand. But it's not that they had anything to offer other than money. I don't know. I try to stay out of all of that. I try to stay low.
Yeah, well, it's small. It's small town politics, and it mirrors big town politics too, because to a certain degree that a lot of that happens just looking the other way for some people that might have more influence in society and the community and stuff like that. So
I think that whole podcast though felt to me like he had blinders on. It would break his heart if he knew that Ann Nib knew what happened out there. Well, I've got news for him. Like, I'm sure Paula could provide him with screenshots of when they jumped on Operation Find Molly Miller, and she was talking all the trash that she was talking herself from her Facebook. And I know Paula's got those screenshots, because if she doesn't, I know somebody else does. I don't have them, but I know somebody took screenshots of all of that, because we've talked about it before. It's been talked about in that group before. And I think that, honestly, he needs to join Operation Find Molly Miller so that he can see what's really going on down here, because there are a lot of things that get shared in that group. That group is a great source of information.
I think he has. I think he's been on our discussion boards, and he's been perusing stuff. He has come late to the party on this one, so he's catching up.
Right.
And I'm just gonna. I'm not defending him, but I've had a 3-hour conversation with Gary. And if you remember what I asked him at the end of the podcast last week, I go, what would you do if Molly was your daughter? And you heard his response.
Right.
He said he'd be out there on the land. He'd be not be following the rules or the law. He would do it whatever he possibly could to move his case forward, whatever it took. And I said, that's exactly what Paula's doing.
And that is exactly what Paula is doing. But he also doesn't realize that this is a family of very seasoned gunsmen and things like, I mean, they're tweakers. They are tweakers out there on that property. And anybody with any kind of common sense knows that you're not just going to try to go out there and look around, especially without a warrant, because they're going to shoot you. There's no trespassing signs everywhere. And it's common knowledge that if you're not in their circle, you're not welcome. That's the whole reason, I think, why there hasn't been more more foot searches out there. Paula has, I know, been searching every area that she has had access to search. But she also knows that even being out there looking around puts a target on her. We don't want another life lost. That's not the outcome that we want. I wish it was just as easy as go out there and look around, because I can guarantee you we would have already been out there looking around. But when you get a laser beam pointed between your eyeballs, you don't see anybody, but you know what it is, and you start panicking. That's a you're not welcome without saying it. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That's why we're pushing so hard for the warrant, for the warrant thing to happen. Because then legally they can go out there and they can have officers for protection. But what are they going to do? Go to Love County and say, hey guys, we want to go do a foot search. You guys want to come with us? That's not ever going to happen.
On every project like this that Cindy and I work on, we always preach the same words.
You first have to go back to the beginning, and that's what we're going to do on this next segment.
Almost 1 month after the high-speed chase and Molly and Colt went missing, Paula and her family received one of their first tips of what possibly happened to Molly and Colt.
This tip set the stage for Paula and her family's suspicions, which ultimately made them take the investigation into their own hands.
The recording you're about to hear is what we believe is probably one of the purest tips that we've heard to date, due to the fact that it was received just weeks after their disappearance.
We've disguised the tipster's voice and withheld their name to protect their identity.
We've been out there searching anyway. We started searching over in wherever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think they're on Pond or like Colby's land or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I think and the thing is, I don't know like the general specific area.
Right.
I just think, and this could be wrong. Like, this person could have just been bullshitting with me. I don't know why someone would want to bullshit like this unless they were just really messed up in the head. Okay, well, I'll have to send you a picture of the general area I'm talking about, but Wade Road, and then you turn. I mean, I've never been down there, but on the map it looks like you turn left or right, and you hit Stockton. So it's somewhere around Wade and Stockton. There's what I was told is there's little old wells around there. I don't know if I guess they're water wells. He says they're really deep. But, and they don't stick up off the ground. They're ground level. That's why they'll be hard to eat, because if leaves or anything are pushed over them or whatever, they're going to be really hard to see. So you'll have to take a rake or a broom and just go over everywhere, because they're going to be hard to see. But anyway, they're old wells. They're ground level. They don't stick up off the ground at all. I was told that the story is, I know y'all want justice for Molly and everything, but the thing is that if what I was told is right, there's no way they can link Con and Nick and Colby to it, and besides people saying, well, we heard this, because the way they killed them, there's not going to be any evidence. There's no way to link it. So just telling the police their names, I'm not really sure, but I feel I'm probably one of only 5 people or so who know about this. If this is right, well, they did it, because then they're going to say, well, who knows? And then I'm not sure if they know that I know, but they could. But anyway, okay, so this is what happened. And I don't know if this was a day after the wreck or before, after, I don't know. That's what he didn't tell me. Molly knew too much about something. I don't know what it was. It was something that Con and Colby and them had going on. Maybe it was a drug deal or, I don't know. But she knew too much about something, and she threatened to call the police. It's I'm kind of seeing her joking around about this.
Right.
But then again, she could have been being real serious and scared them or whatever.
Right.
But she said, if they didn't give her, some drugs or some money, she was going to tell on them. And they were like, no, we're not giving you any drugs. And so she said, okay, well, I'm going to tell them. So she grabbed her phone and she called 911. And then I guess they freaked out and they grabbed her phone or something. I really don't know how long after this. It could have been the next day or it could have been right after. They didn't tell me, and I don't want to ask anymore.
Right.
But so I don't know if it was right after she made this 911 phone call or if it was the next day or whatever. But I guess they told her they would give her drugs. And then, so she said, okay. And then they went and filled up the needle or whatever, however they do drugs like that. And they put way too much dope in it on purpose because they were like, well, she's a little 16-year-old girl or however old she is, and she can't keep her mouth shut and she's going to tell on us or whatever, so we got to kill her. So they put way too much drugs in the needle on purpose, but they didn't tell her that. And they said, okay, they said, we'll do it for you or whatever. So they shot her up with way too much on purpose. And the way he explained it, he said, and it blew her heart up. But I don't, I don't know how it happens when you overdose. But anyway, she overdosed and they did it on purpose. Then they realized they couldn't leave Colt alive because they knew that the cops would be asking him about Molly all the time and everything, and he would end up telling or whatever. So they shot him, and then again, I don't know how long it was after they killed them that they went to the bodies, but they took the bodies out. My understanding is they took the bodies out. They hadn't done anything to the bodies yet. They were just dead, They took the bodies out around Wade or Stockton somewhere and dumped them in a well. I don't know if it was two different wells or the same well. Dumped them in a well and then poured acid over their caustic soda over their bodies. And I read online and they used to use caustic soda to decompose roadkill and then also farm animals. I guess when they were dead, so they really know why, but they use it for farm animals and roadkill is what I read online. And all that's going to be left is bone holes. I don't know if that means bones or bone shells or what, but all I know is that if what I was told is right, they're in a well somewhere and it's going to be really hard to find them because I'm sure that they probably kick dirt and stuff into the well and back into the well. And
are these wells open?
Do what?
Are these wells open? Do they have a lid that covers them?
I don't know, but I don't know. See, that's what I was thinking. Would it have a lid? Because they wouldn't want somebody just stepping into a hole or whatever. So I would think, yeah, it would have a lid. But if they're old and then they're already covered in dirt or whatever, then they probably wouldn't need a lid. Right. But I would think probably, they probably have a lid, and that's why. I mean, they would have to, or somebody would step in it, or somebody could step in it.
And you can send me a picture of kind of the vicinity?
Yeah. And like I said, I wouldn't send you on a wild goose chase unless I really thought this is really what happened. Because I've heard from two other people that, I don't know if these people knew, what happened, but all they told me was, well, all I can tell you is they're never going to find the body. That's all they said. And, this would make sense because, seriously, even if somebody found the well, got a flashlight or whatever, it's probably still going to be pretty hard to see them, if there's nothing left of the bodies. And then, two, if they push dirt or stuff in there, then that's going to cover the bones and stuff, and, you're just not going to see it, and nobody's ever going to think anything. That was the woods and stuff,
Right. You don't have to tell me this if you don't want, and it's really irrelevant to it all, but who is Nick?
Nick is, I don't know who he is. I've never met Nick or Colby, but Nick is one of Colby and Colin's friends, and he lives on Jimtown Road by the cemetery, by the Jimtown, right beside the Jimtown cemetery.
Jimtown?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I don't know Nick's last name or Colby's last name.
Oh, well, that's fine. I was just wondering because that's a whole new name in this whole situation. We hadn't heard that name. But a lot of the things that you're telling me make sense.
And whether what I'm saying is if this is where they're at or not, honestly, I don't think, because if this was right, they covered it so well. Like, they're stupid, but somehow this is a really smart way, you know, to get rid of a body if you're going to get rid of a body. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but I know I know, like, I'm 100% sure, one, that Molly's dead, and two, that it was Nick and Colby and Con, because two of my close friends are close friends with Nick. Well, one of my close friends is close friends with Nick, and then my other close friend, me and her, are close friends with this other close friend. But that makes sense. But anyway, I wasn't there, but my friend and my other friend were at my friend's house, and Nick was there, and I think Colby was there too, I'm not sure. But I guess it was on the news or something, and the thing of Molly and Colt came on the news, and they were like, you know, if you have any information, call, you know, Molly Miller, she's missing. And then Nick turned around, and apparently he didn't say it very loudly, but he said it, like, loud enough for my friend to hear. And he said, yeah, we had to take out the trash. Like, I would put it on pretty much anything that those three are the ones that did it. But,
so is it pretty much where this area is between Wade and Stockton?
I don't know if it, I mean...
What about Hall Road?
The person that told me is, like, he wasn't involved, but he, like, I don't know, he, like, deals drugs with them, I think, or something. I'm not involved in, like, drugs and stuff. I don't do drugs.
Right.
But, he deals drugs with them or something like that. And I guess they told him or something. I don't really know how he knows all the details, but I'm pretty sure he, like, deals drugs with them. And,
well, they were probably making jokes. They were probably all messed up. They were probably all messed up partying one night and making jokes about it.
Yeah, probably. And, what I was going to say was, he wasn't there, so, like, you know, obviously, even if they are going to tell somebody, oh, yeah, this is what we did, they're not going to pinpoint it like, oh, yeah, it's over here on these latitude and longitude.
Right.
You know? And also, I don't know for sure if he knows, like, this is exact. What he told me was we were looking at, because I was trying to get information from him, like, every day, and we were looking at the computer, and I'd ask him every day, like, well, what they do with the bodies? He kept being like, I don't know, you know, like, every time I'd say something, like, I'd get a little bit more out of him.
Right.
Because I knew he knew a lot. He's smart enough to not go blab his mouth because he knows Con and them, and he knows what they're capable of better than probably the rest of us do. But he did say that whether this is what they told them or not, he did say that, I don't know if he said Colby said it or Con said it, but he said that they said that if he ever needed to, like, get rid of a body, they knew where to put it. And then they told him, and, like, I don't know how long ago this was, they told him there's some old wells over there on. So I don't know if he's getting that from that or because they actually told him. Like, I didn't really get into detail with him about it.
Right.
Because I didn't want him to think I wanted to know that bad.
Right, right. Well, that's very smart of you. Very smart of you. Have you heard anyone that you've talked to mention Hall Road?
No.
Okay.
Where's that at?
Well, it's out there by Stockton somewhere. It's between Wade and Stockton. And we have heard from rumors or leads or whatever.
It's between Wade and Stockton?
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably where it's happened because, like, where I'm going to show you, it's kind of between Wade and Stockton, but I never saw, like, on the map a full road or whatever.
Yeah, it's just a little road out there in between Stockton and Wade. That may be, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You don't know how much I appreciate you calling me.
You're welcome.
Any more information, call me. This is a lot of information, and I appreciate it. If you get any more, you want to tell me anything,
don't think I'm going to find anything else out. Probably, like, this is probably as far as it goes.
If we find her, you will be compensated for this. Your name will never be mentioned. We won't even have to see you, but we'll get it to you.
Okay.
But if you hear, like you said, I doubt you do hear anything else, because this is pretty much it.
Yeah, and I honestly think I, like, squeezed everything out of him that I could. I don't think he's gonna. And honestly, I don't even know if he probably knows other little details, but I don't think he knows anything major else.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah, if you could send me that picture to kind of give us an idea.
Okay. I had this, like, really weird, like, random dream. I mean, it freaked me out, but it was just really weird and random. And I had this dream that some of my friends came, and they were like, we know where Molly's at. And I was like, what? And they said, yeah, we're going to search for her. And I was like, oh, I want to go. And I was like, well, where are we going? And they said, 12 miles south of Wolf. And I was like, oh, okay. And I don't know if I just heard 12 miles south of Wilson before, or if that was just like a weird thing. But then when I woke up, I the next day or so, I went and talked to them. I was like, asking them about like where they might be. And because at the time, I didn't really know that they were like in like Love County. You know, I kind of thought they might be in Wilson or they might be wherever. I wasn't sure. And then he was like, oh, and like I was looking at Wade Road, and I was like, oh, well, I said, look at all the trees around here. I said, they could put them around here or whatever. He said, no. He said, they are probably around Wade Road, but not that way. And I said, what? And then he said, well, scroll down. And he basically, like, scrolled me, like, he scrolled down, and then he scrolled to the side, like, over to Stockton. He said they're around there. And then I put the thing in my GPS, and to the point where he pointed to from my GPS from the center of Wilson to that point was 12.6 miles.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it freaked me out. It gave me chill bumps. I was like, what? That was weird.
Wow.
But,
yes,
yeah,
please
anyway.
send that to us. That will help us a lot.
Well,
we just got to get her. We got to get her home one way or another. This family, my family, we've got to have closure.
Yeah.
We can't do this anymore.
If I were you, I would just deal with the OSBI. I wouldn't deal with Wilson Police.
Oh, no.
They're worth a
We're
lot.
over that. Yeah, we're over them.
Yeah. Because I tried to call anonymously to the police the other day, and they were just straight up rude with me. Like, they wanted to know why I would give them my name and, like, all this stuff. And they were like, well, is this just rumors, or do you actually know this? And I was just thinking, well, you know what? The poster said if you have any information, not if you know your information is 100% correct.
Right.
It just really made me mad. They were just rude, and
that
it
was
was like
the
they didn't
Wilson
even want to
police?
talk. I wouldn't even deal with them. I would just deal with the FBI.
Was it the Wilson Police that you called?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. We're the family, and they don't listen to us, or they won't even tell us anything.
I'm going to get off here. I'll send you that picture. It's probably going to be 15 more minutes until I can stop and send it.
Okay. Believe me, I don't want anybody else's family going through this, and I don't want anybody else getting hurt over this. That I do not.
Yeah.
This is enough. This is too much. I can't express to you how grateful I am that you called me. It means so much. You don't even know. If I could see you, I'd give you the biggest hug ever.
You have to look on the ground really hard, because the way he was explaining it, like, even if you step on the well, you're probably not going to see it unless...
I'm to the point I'll crawl on my hands and knees all over that place. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Send me that picture whenever you get a chance.
And I also do know that there's, well, I don't know for sure there's multiple wells, but he said there's multiple wells around there. So just because if you find one well and they're not in there, like, keep looking, because they could be in any of those.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get off here, and I really hope you find them.
I hope so, too, and thank you so much.
Up next, we're revealing another recorded interview that was done very early on in the investigation by the private investigation team Paula hired.
This interview comes from someone who heard a lot, saw a lot, and was almost a victim as well, due to being labeled as someone who knew too much, just like Molly.
We have altered the voices and withheld the names to protect their identities.
You stated almost 2 weeks ago you heard a conversation while riding in a car with and
Yes.
Who was that conversation between?
Each other.
And what was that conversation about?
I don't know how he got the acid, but he had sulfuric acid. And he was wanting to take it out to Grasper.
Okay. What was the sulfuric acid in?
It was in a big white bucket.
Was it round, square?
Well, it was round.
Round.
Yeah.
Did it have any labeling on the outside?
No.
So just a plain white bucket?
Yeah.
Can you describe it a little bit more in detail for me?
Kind of like a 5-gallon bucket with a handle on it.
Okay, so you're saying basically a 5-gallon paint can?
Yeah.
Okay. And you saw the actual bucket?
Yes. Before then, it was in bedroom. I didn't know what it was, but before then, the can was in her bedroom.
How long had it been there that you
I noticed it twice in probably a week.
How long did you notice it before this conversation?
Probably a week.
A week. Okay. Once you heard that was sulfuric acid and they were going out to Grassburg, where's Grassburg?
It's in the western Love County. It's out past Jimtown, west of Jimtown.
And what's the purpose of that property? Like, why was he having to bring that there?
From what the conversation that I heard was that he had to get the acid out there then, and he needed to get it there to get rid of the body. He said, we have to get rid of her, we gotta get rid of the body, everyone's getting too close. And I don't know if the body was there, I have no idea. I just know that they said that they needed to get it out there right now, and said, I don't want to do that. You know, there are other people around that shouldn't be hearing this. And both of them looked at me, and that was pretty much the end of that conversation. But they did take the bucket out to Grassburg, they dropped it off, and stayed, and I left. And after that, I asked several questions about it, and she wouldn't say anything to me.
Is there anybody else out at Grassburg when y'all got there?
I know that Colby was out there. Colby Barrick. I did not see him. His truck was running back behind the house that we stopped at.
Do you know what kind of truck he drives?
No. I just know that the truck was running back behind the house that we stopped at, and, you know, hollered at him and said, hey Colby, we're here. You know, don't shoot. I guess he doesn't want people there. And she kind of waved a little, and we drove off.
Did you see or hear anything else while y'all were still there?
No. No, I mean, there's stuff all over the yard. I know a lot about manufacturing meth because of both of my brothers. And there was pretty much any and everything that you could need to manufacture meth just all over the yard.
Had you ever picked up any drugs out there?
No. No.
Have you ever seen them cooking?
No.
What's it smell like out there?
It's an acidic, almost rotten, just, it's a smell that you can't really describe, but you can't really get it out of your nose.
Okay. That smell, can you compare it to anything else? What would be close to it?
Sulfur.
Okay. And it smells like that all the time out there?
I've only been out there twice.
And it smelled like that both times?
Yes.
After y'all left and the stayed, how long was it before y'all saw the again?
I saw him the next day.
Okay, so where did you and go after that?
Back to her house.
And what did y'all do from there?
We let this hang out. There were several people that came by to pick up drugs. That's just on a daily basis at her house all day.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Several people came by to pick up drugs that day, but that's, like I said, that's a daily basis type thing in her house. It's all day, every day. Honestly, when I first started hanging out with again, I didn't know that she was into that again. She's had issues with it before, and...
Any specific drug that she is, I guess,
Frank.
Issuing that Frank?
That's the only drug that I know of.
No pills?
She takes a lot of pills. But
She takes a lot of pills?
I don't know that she sells any. Honestly, I've never seen her sell them.
Okay. And is she on crank as well?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about her house, or her apartment, rather. Is it clean, dirty?
It's clean, but it's one of those places you've got to watch where you sit, you've got to watch where you step, because there are needles everywhere.
Going back to what y'all did that night, y'all hung out, y'all saw the next day, right? When did you see or have the chance to look at the memory cards?
It was the same night that everything happened whenever they stuck me in the closet.
Okay. So, What day was that about?
So 6 nights ago. Yeah, 6 nights ago.
So tell me how that day played out.
Called me and told me that she wanted me to come over. She said she was having a bad day. I was under the assumption that her and were broken up. And she said that she and I were going to go out, get tattoos, go out and eat, just get away from the house and get away from everybody else. And the majority of the day was spent pretty much just trying to figure out what we were going to wear, just, you know, regular stupid stuff like that. And I told my husband the same thing because she's, to my knowledge, she had never lied to me about anything like that. And then my husband, of course, after all of this, my husband has a voicemail on his phone that she had called him and left him about something that she needed me to go and help her do. So, I mean, she knew ahead of time what she was doing, but I had no knowledge.
Before the incident, when did you have time to see
the memory cards?
Memory cards, yes.
They were in her closet in a safe that she's kept. I don't know why we thought that the safe has been open as long as I can remember. And I'm not real tall, and I had to step on top of her safe to get up to a dress, and she completely freaked out because all the memory cards fell out. She said, "Don't touch them, don't look at them, stay the hell away from them." And it made me really nervous because when she said that, everyone in the house ran in the bedroom. And probably an hour later that she said she was going to leave, and I was the only one in the house, and I just went as fast as I could because no one was acting right after that. They were all acting nervous, and like I said, I had heard talk of this many times in her house. And I just went through as fast as I could on her laptop and flicked through pictures as fast as I could to find what I could. And that's when I found the pictures of Molly.
Where had everybody else gone at that particular time?
There were several of them still in the living room. I shut the bedroom door and told him I was getting dressed.
And where was the at the time?
He was not at the house at the time.
So while you're looking through these images, tell me what you saw as it pertains to Molly Miller.
There were a few images of Molly while she was still alive of her face.
Okay, let me stop you right there. What did her face look like?
She looked sad, scared.
Looked like she was crying,
Yes.
water coming down her face, any markings on her face, anything like that?
I didn't see any markings on her face, but I mean, I flipped through the pictures so fast that I could have missed anything.
So, was she wearing makeup?
No.
Did you were her eyes puffy?
Yeah. To me, they were puffy, like she
Kinda
had
just-
sleep puffy.
Okay. Just start from the hair down. At her hairline, did you see any blood, anything like that?
No.
Her forehead, any blood, bruising,
No, I didn't see
anything like
anything.
that? Eyebrows, everything fine? Let's go to her eyes, other than, I'm guessing bagginess and puffiness.
Yeah.
Were her eyes watery at that particular time?
Yes.
Could you see streams of tears in the pictures at all?
I could see that she'd been crying, but that's it.
How was the color in her face at that particular time?
Fairly pale.
Okay. What about her nose? Any markings?
No.
Snot? Anything like that? Her mouth? Same thing?
Same.
Her cheekbones?
They seem fine.
Kind of somebody. And how? Kind of show me, what the picture actually showed. Was it like from here to here, or?
There were
Can you do
no
that for me?
pictures that I saw that were further from here to here.
Okay.
Of all the pictures that I saw.
Okay. So after you saw those pictures, what did you see from there?
I pulled that memory card out and set it on the lockbox, and there was one more memory card to look at, and I put that in, and the first image I saw was a picture of Molly laying down in what appeared to be mud,
Face up, face down?
face up, and she was obviously dead
What makes you make that assumption?
because her body was, what part of her body I could see was decomposed.
And what could you see of her body? Give me another.
Same profile. The same profile as in right here. Her eyes weren't, they weren't there.
So you're saying the socket was open,
Yeah.
but no eyes were there?
Yeah. Her eyes were gone. Her face, her lips were, completely, there was no skin there anymore. It was peeled back. to the back part of her face. Her cheeks were sunken in. They were discolored.
Okay. Well, what color was the skin?
It was a greenish color.
A greenish?
It was a greenish yellowish color.
Once again, I mean, give me from head to what you can see. You know, start from there and kind of work your way down for me in your mind and tell me what you saw. I know you've already told me about the eyes, but let's go a little bit higher on the head and then work your way down and tell me from there.
Her nose, there was no skin left on her nose. It was mainly the bone.
Okay.
From there, the lips, they weren't there. I mean, it was everything right here was just bone, pretty much. There was still some skin intact, but not much.
Okay, what about her teeth? You could just see, like...
Yeah, I could
and,
just
I mean,
see...
excuse me for doing that, so, like...
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And her cheeks right in here.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the greenish yellowish area still was, but there wasn't much skin left there at all. Her chin, I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
Her neck, it was barely there. I could almost see the bones right in here.
Now, did it look like it was decayed? Did it look cut?
Honestly,
do you know the difference?
Honestly, I don't know the difference.
Okay.
That's just something, I don't know, that's something that I mean, I see that every night when I go to sleep, and it's not something that I'm ever going to forget.
I understand.
But,
any other details you can give me?
no.
If you had to guess, how many pictures like that did you see?
At least a dozen.
And then, could you see any of the surrounding area?
They were close-up pictures.
So, like,
Very
just right on.
profile, very
Okay.
close pictures.
So you couldn't see the ground at all?
No. All I saw was that she was either laying, it appeared to be mud. There was some grass there, but it appeared to be mud.
So after you saw that, what did you do with these?
I was walking back towards the bedroom, and he was a very large man. I could hear him walking towards the bedroom, and he was walking back towards the bedroom, and I pulled the card out of his laptop and threw it back in the box. And he banged on the bedroom door a couple of times, so I shoved the safe a little further back into the closet and threw the dress on that I was supposed to be trying on and opened the door. And he asked me what I was doing, and I told him I was getting dressed, and he looked over towards the safe and he said, "That's not where it's supposed to be." And I said, "Well, I had to step on it to reach a dress. I'm too short." You know, he said, "Well, you could have just asked for help." And then not long after that, I got back home, and I was, finishing getting ready, putting my makeup on, trying to act like nothing was wrong. And I told that I didn't feel well. I said I was going to go ahead and go home, and that came from behind me and grabbed me. He said, "No, you're not going anywhere." He said, "I know you." He said, "I know what you saw." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Because he said, "I know exactly what you saw." And he put his hand over my mouth and dragged me in his room, which is right across the hallway from us, and got duct tape out and duct taped my hands and my ankles and my mouth and sat right on top of me. And he told me I wasn't going anywhere. He said, "You know too much." He said, "She knew too much, and we're going to do the same thing to you that we did to her." He said, "You're not screwing this up for us." He said, "We've worked too hard and you're not going to screw it up." And from there on out, the rest of the night, I mean, my husband said he didn't hear from me for 48 hours, so I would assume it was 2 days.
Okay.
I honestly don't know.
During that 2 days, you're bound in the closet, you have duct tape on your mouth.
Yeah.
What else were they doing?
They were pouring stuff down my throat.
Liquid?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a red liquid.
And can you describe the liquid? Let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for sight, taste, smell, any sense that you can put to it.
Right. It was a thin red liquid. It smelled sweet, but it tasted horrible. I know they shoved pills down my throat with it, but I don't know what they were. I don't know what they taste like.
Did you see what color the pills were?
No. The room was dark. The closet was dark. When I saw the liquid, when they first started pouring it down my throat, it was still daylight, and there was a little bit of light coming through the window. Literally sat on me, I guess, until I got out. I don't remember anyone else. I don't remember him getting up and anyone else taking his place until I got out.
Okay. Back to the liquid. What kind of container was it in?
Like a tea pitcher that you would make a picture of tea in? Like
So
a
just-
big clear container?
Okay, so I want to make sure I get this right. So it wasn't like a gallon jug
No.
like you get at the store. It was like
a
a...
Kool-Aid or something. In.
Okay. And it was clear?
Yes.
Okay.
And they used a blue funnel.
And approximately how many times did they do this?
I can't even count. Dozens. Dozens of times.
Did anybody ever say what it might have been?
No.
Or, go get
No.
this?
No.
Okay.
He kept telling, he was crying. He kept telling him, just, let her go. She hasn't done anything wrong. Just let her go. I don't think he knew what was going on. I really don't.
Okay.
And a couple of times they told him it was his turn to pour with this, whatever they were pouring down my throat. And he would start to pour, and then he would pull the funnel out and stick his finger down my throat so I would throw up. And I think they finally caught on to what he was doing and told him it was time for him to leave. He had to get out, and obviously wasn't doing the job, so they were going to have to take me somewhere else and just get it over with. And got up long enough to drag me out of the closet, and he pushed me across the hallway into the room, knocked that part of the window out, and threw me out that window and told me just to go as fast as I could.
Where was everybody else during that time?
Trying to keep him from getting to me. They were scrambling, people were throwing things in cars, and was trying to keep from getting as close as he could to me, but threw the door in his face to the room and locked it. And after that, I don't know what happened in the house.
So everybody was in the house, was able to help you. You got enough to do what?
He was getting ready to take me wherever they were going to take me. He was going to get the keys to his truck so he could put me in his truck.
And where was during all this?
She was back and forth in the middle of all of it, telling me that I shouldn't have messed up. I shouldn't have tried to get away. I should have acted like I didn't hear anything, and I shouldn't have been so nosy.
After you got out of there, where did you go?
For the longest time, I couldn't walk. I drug myself to the other, where the apartments are there. It's a wide open field from there to the street. And I drug myself to the street, and I lay there in the grass. I don't know how long for. Honestly, couldn't tell you. And about daylight, drove by and picked me up, and he took me to his house, and I stayed there for the night, and then I went to my mother's apartment the next day.
And from there, where did you go?
I stayed at my mother's apartment. My mom told me that while I was gone, that people had been in her apartment and they tore it apart. They literally tore the apartment apart. They went through everything I had in my room.
So you lived with your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Did they say anything to your mom?
They told my mom that I had some things that they wanted back, but they never would tell her what it was, and I don't know what they were looking for, honestly.
When they went to your mom's apartment, did your mom tell you how they got in?
My mom never locks her door, and she said, "Why are you getting your stuff?" She said, "I just need my stuff back to you." And she said, "Are you fighting?" She said, "Well, yeah, you could say that." But when she left, my mom called me. She said, "You need to come over because there's something wrong." And they had taken everything I owned. My money, my clothes, my makeup, my jewelry. I mean, everything you can imagine was gone.
Next time on Partners in True Crime.
In the coming weeks, we have some exciting things happening. We have received dozens of requests from our audience to speak to the corruption in the county. We have heard dozens of stories of how people have suffered because of these abuses of power by elected officials.
We're going to be discussing some of these stories with locals and experts to help initiate some changes in the community. We're also going to create an open forum on the podcast.
We're going to have an episode that is completely interactive. We want to hear from you. What are your questions or thoughts on the case? What would you like to discuss with us? And do you have any information to share?
Please submit your questions or comments with your phone number on the website if you would like to be on the podcast or you would like us to discuss your question or comment.
You can submit this information confidentially directly on the podcast at the bottom of the first page where it says contact.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Partners in True Crime is launching an exciting new podcast, The Killing Hour with Doc Bond. Famous criminologist and author Dr. Scott Bond will be joining Rob and I on a deep dive into true crime and serial killers. It'll be an exploration into the mind of one of the world's most notorious serial killers, Dennis Rader, aka BTK.
We will be joined by special guests featuring BTK's daughter, BTK's prison guard, New York Times best-selling author and Emmy-winning filmmaker Mark Olshaker, the creator of Mindhunters, and more.
Join us every Wednesday as we investigate the sadistic, dark world of serial killers to understand what makes them tick. Learn the signs of these psychopaths who walk among us, because how well do you really know anyone?
If you have any information regarding the case, please contact the BIA at www.bia.gov/BIA/missing-murder-unit.
You can also call their hotline with tips at 1-833-560-2065 and email them directly at ojs_mmu@bia.gov.
And if you want to text them with a tip, text keyword BIAMMU and send your tip to 847-411.
Check the Partners in True Crime website for this and any additional information.
If you or anyone you know is suffering from a methamphetamine addiction, please contact the American Meth Addiction Hotline.
If you or anyone you know has been the victim of sexual abuse, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline. All rights reserved. This has been a production of 722 Media Content. Please visit our website where you can subscribe to the podcast, find show notes, and listen to Vi's original song, Take Me Back, written for Molly Miller.